Well, I put out the strongest border plan this country had ever seen, and I believe that's why they had to take me out on election day. And that border plan calls for using the U.S. Constitution. We don't have to be damsels in distress waiting for Joe Biden and his incompetent administration to do something at our border. They're failing us by not living up to the Guarantee Clause, Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, protecting us from an invasion. And when the government fails, we have the Constitution to fall back on. Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3. We're being invaded. Time is of the essence. And we are in danger right now. And so we can secure our own border. My border plan called for taking the materials that the federal government abandoned on our border, the $300 million worth of materials that Joe Biden has now sold as scrap metal for $2 million, taking those back, using them to build the wall ourselves. We just need one strong governor to show people how it's done. My border plan would do that, and it would call for taking on the cartels, shooting down their drones that are doing surveillance and dropping off drugs. Shoot them down and blow up these drug tunnels and stop allowing the narco terrorists to control our border coming into this country.
Kari, I do want to get to your latest book. It's called Unafraid, and it gives readers an exclusive and pretty uncensored look inside your life. Tell us a little bit about the why behind this book.
Well, I was approached after the election here to write a book, and I had a couple publishers reach out to me, and I said I was in a pretty dark place after that. I'm not sure you want a book from me. It might end up being like a Stephen King horror book. I was pretty angry, but I decided to start writing anyways. And it tells the story of my life of growing up in rural Iowa, youngest of 9 children, and having to work for everything I had, working my way through college and into a dream job as a broadcast journalist, only to walk away from a 7-figure contract when I realized that the mainstream media was just pushing propaganda, and how I ended up in the center of the political world. It also talks about the America First movement and the agenda to turn our country around and how we move forward. We're in such a, as I said, perilous moment in our history, and there is a way to move forward. And a lot of it is going back and looking back at our history and all those hills that we surrendered, and also all the times when we did the right thing and fought for our ideals. And that is a good guideline of how we can move forward. But I'm a big believer in the America First agenda is the only way out of the mess that the uniparty and this political class has gotten us into, these politicians, the lifer politicians. Yeah. It's going to take outsiders and America First policies to save our country. And that's why I support the man you're seeing on the screen there, President Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, who happened to write the foreword for your book. What was that conversation like?
Well, I know he's busy, and I asked him to do it. He thought about it and came back and said yes. And I think when you read the foreword to my book, you can actually hear President Trump's voice in that foreword. He talks about the first moment he recognized something special as I was a candidate running, and when he called my name out amongst all the other names he called out who were running for the Republican nomination for governor in Arizona, and the crowd went wild, he stepped back and took notice and said, "Oh my goodness, this is a movement here in Arizona." And so he talked about that and how we're in need so badly of fighters in the Republican Party and frankly in America. And I'm a fighter, President Trump's a fighter, and there's millions of others of us around this country who are working hard to save our country. That's why we're being attacked. I say support anybody who's being attacked like President Trump is or I am in the media, because those are the people who are doing the right thing and working the hardest to save our country.
Kari, you describe yourself just now as a fighter. You're also a journalist, you're a political candidate, also an author. What's next for Kari Lake?
Well, that's a good question. There's been no secret. People have asked me about running for U.S. Senate. We have a Senate seat that we could take and put an America First senator there. We desperately need some people who are going to put the citizens of their state first when they go to the federal government, go off to the Senate or the House. So I'm seriously contemplating running for Senate. We have 2 hardcore liberals who vote with Joe Biden 93 to 100% of the time who are running. And that is not Arizona. Arizona is not all about what Joe Biden's about. As a matter of fact, Arizona is seriously depressed about what Joe Biden is doing to our country. So I'm giving it some thought. I might run for U.S. Senate.